Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Art of Being a Woman. I'm your host, Courtney, and today we are discussing the art of acting on your creativity. As always, I am very excited to discuss this topic in depth because acting on my creativity changed my life. And not only did it change my daily routine and the things I fill my time with, it has also changed the way that I look at myself and how I feel within. I have this really strong belief that each and every one of us is creative. I believe we all gravitate towards a form of art, whether we act on it or not. Perhaps we don't consider ourselves creative individuals, but we love to watch movies and we love to listen to music or we love to read. And it's in those things that we do that bring us joy. And we can't really explain why other than it gives us life. Those are usually the areas of life where we have the potential to create something and we just have to act on it. Now, this is not for other people. This is not to receive validation. This is not to become famous or to feel seen. It's truly a form of self-expression. And there's a pretty common understanding that's going around now, or at least I think it's pretty common at this point. I've seen it on Instagram and Threads a few times, and basically, many people are saying that depression is when we suppress how we feel. And in order to combat that and avoid falling into a depression, so to speak, we need to express ourselves. And what is one of the best ways to express ourselves? Through art. And that's why I personally feel so strongly about this topic, because acting on our creativity keeps our spirits high. It keeps us happy. It's a lot easier to be a happier individual on a deep level when we are acting on our creativity consistently. The 4 steps that we're going to get into are from my Instagram and Threads account. She is Artfully Woman. If you're not following me there yet, I would love to have you. I post on Threads daily and I post on Instagram, I would say weekly, but I'm currently going through some sort of writing funk. I guess we can call it that. It's not writer's block because I have topics that I want to cover. And on top of that, I am fortunate enough that quite a few amazing people that read what I write share topic ideas. And I've really tried to finish a few different topics, but I keep getting stuck. And initially, that would kind of piss me off because I was getting so stuck on the end result of my creative expression. But I then realized that it's not about the finished product. It's about the self-expression. It's about being creative. So the writing on Instagram is less frequent than usual, but I know that when the time is right, I will be posting more consistently on there, and I'm looking forward to it. Before we break down the 4 steps, I just want to give you a heads up that my voice has not recovered from last week. I don't know if it's the weather change. I live in New York and it recently got very cold, so perhaps that can be messing with my voice. So if it sounds a little deeper, I apologize, but hopefully this mic saves me. Let's get into the 4 steps. We have step 1, no inspiration is everywhere, but courage is rare. Step 2, create before you're certain it's good. Step 3, don't mistake avoidance for logic. And step 4, remember you were born to create. Let's get into step 1. No inspiration is everywhere, but courage is rare. This step was inspired by something I read. Apparently, someone recorded that Michael Jackson once said that he would get woken up in the middle of the night with song ideas. And he believed that if he did not take those song ideas seriously, that Prince would get those same song ideas and he would end up producing the song. And I found that so interesting because of many reasons. But first of all, that was interesting because it was almost as if Michael Jackson admitted that the inspiration is not coming from him. It's coming from a higher source, a higher power, which I agree, it is. We are just the ones that have to bring it to life in the physical reality. But another interesting part about what Michael Jackson said was that inspiration doesn't gatekeep. Inspiration isn't scarce. It's something that will look for an outlet that can actually bring it to life. So the more that you act on what inspires you, the more inspiration you're going to receive from this higher source, this higher power. This can be hard to believe if you currently don't have a creative outlet, but I advise that you find one as soon as possible, because you will begin to discover that inspiration will start to chase you. You will start to get more and more motivated to take whatever creativity you have further and deeper. And as you do that, you unlock a whole other side of yourself, which I believe leads to more appreciation of yourself, but also more appreciation of God, of this higher source that is just pouring into you constantly. Now, there's obviously moments where you're not feeling inspired at all. And I explained in the beginning of this episode that currently I haven't been writing that much, but I honestly believe that it's a part of life. It's a part of the game. You can't get upset when you're not always winning the game. You just try again and you keep trying until you win again, you succeed. And it's less about success. That might not have been the best example, but the point is that we are acting on our creativity. We are trying to bring something that was just an idea into physical reality, which is ultimately playing God. And I know that some people can hear that and get thrown off, especially if they're religious and they don't believe that they are supposed to play God and think they're a god or act like a god. But it's not in a egotistical way. It's in a self-appreciative way. God gave us this gift of being in this world and having an opportunity to do what he does, which is bring his thoughts into reality. That's what we end up doing on a smaller scale when we take action on the inspiration that finds us. But again, just to bring up that story about Michael Jackson and Prince, we don't have to act on our creativity. We have free will in this world. So we can choose to not express ourselves. Perhaps we're very comfortable with the life that we live and it doesn't involve doing anything creative. Your inspiration will just find another outlet. And the interesting thing about that is sometimes in life, we can have ideas of things we've always wanted to try and pursue, but we convince ourselves that we don't want it that bad. But we'll have a friend or a family member or just a stranger, someone we cross paths with, and they tell us about how they actually pursued something that we were interested in. And we have those moments where we think to ourselves, wow, if only I went after what excited me. If they can do it, why can't I do it? At least I've had that experience quite a few times. A second outcome of choosing not to act on our creativity is that we're more likely to feel depressed. And I don't think many people like to admit that, but it's something that I've experienced in my own life. I wouldn't really say that I was ever depressed truly, because I think I had enough self-awareness, even to my own detriment in my life, where I knew that whenever I was sad, it's because I enjoyed being sad. So the depression, quote unquote, was me choosing to stay sad and be stubborn about it. So I never really considered myself depressed per se, but when I had those moments where I was choosing to be really sad for longer than usual, it was because I was keeping a lot of my feelings bottled up. And the great thing about acting on your creativity is that you don't have to necessarily express exactly how you feel through your creativity. For some people, their creativity comes out when they cook. So you can have a really hard day and then cook something that excites you, and that will become an outlet for your bottled up emotions. So consider all of that whenever you feel inspired to take action on something in your life. And the thing is with inspiration, in the beginning, it's a very very quiet voice. It's a thought that would cross your mind, and it probably would cross your mind once every few months, perhaps. Sometimes we get lucky and the thought will cross our mind more often. And in those moments, it'll be harder to ignore and you'll be more likely to act on it because it's something you're constantly thinking about. But even the smallest things that excite you, act on it and allow yourself to see where it takes you, because you will realize that higher source is speaking to you and it wants to speak to you. It wants you to bring things into creation in this world, specifically through you. I have a silly example for this, but when I was at work this week, I was doing an intermittent fast, which personally I really enjoyed doing them because I feel like when I eat while I'm working, I get very tired and lethargic. So I usually skip breakfast and eat a late lunch and then an early dinner. I also have a goal for myself this year to try 26 new recipes because I am now 26 years old. I specifically chose this goal because I've always wanted to be a good cook. It's something that does not come naturally or effortlessly to me, which always discouraged me and frustrated me, but still the desire within me to be a good cook was so strong. And I decided to act on that inspiration. So this week I did my intermittent fast and I had this really strong craving to make chicken tenders. And honestly, I'm always intimidated to make chicken because I think I tried to do it once when I was really young, probably like 10 years ago. And I didn't fully cook the chicken and I was so embarrassed that I really never tried ever again. And I wasn't embarrassed that my family would judge me. I was embarrassed that I served something so bad and I just allowed myself to be intimidated. Sorry, I'm getting a little off track. But anyways, I had this strong desire to make this chicken, and at first it was a quick thought, and then I kept thinking about it throughout work, and I was surprised because I do the intermittent fasting quite often, so I'm not usually thinking about food while I'm working. So I realized I should take this inspiration very seriously, even though it's so silly and it's just about making food. Once I took the idea seriously and I decided, okay, when I get home, I will make this chicken, all of a sudden, I started getting ideas on where to buy the ingredients, and I started thinking to myself, I know exactly which recipe to use. I actually saw a recipe for this chicken online, and not only that, I saved it and sent it to myself. So it was like everything was aligning, which made it even more inspiring. And eventually, when I got home from work that day, I instantly started prepping the chicken. I luckily only had to buy the meat from the store. I had all the other ingredients in the house, and I did it pretty quickly. Not only that, I was excited about the whole process. I was excited going to the store to buy the chicken. I was excited about the preparation of the food, and I was excited while I was cooking it. I wasn't intimidated. I didn't think I would undercook it. If anything, I was prepared to overcook it a little bit just to avoid that happening. And it turned out to be so damn good. Like, I'm still thinking about it till this day. I made it 2 days ago, and I actually begged my family if I can make it again this weekend because I didn't make that much, so not everybody got to try it, but those that did said it was really good, and I really forced them to give me criticism with cooking because I think they know that I'm hard on myself about it, so they're all very nice, but I need the constructive feedback if I want to be a great cook. So they said it was really good, and I decided that I'm going to make this for the family. So I'm very excited about that. But had I not acted on that inspiration, that thought that just popped in my head briefly, I would have never made that chicken and I would have never gained confidence in cooking. Again, it wouldn't have been the end of the world if I didn't follow that inspiration and I didn't make that food, but who knows when that idea would have came back to mind, and who knows when I would have been excited to try something like that. I know that story was a bit lengthy, but I hope that it helped put things into perspective in a more mundane way. Inspiration is not always dramatic. It can be as simple as feeling inspired to go for a walk. Act on it, and eventually it will grow and strengthen, and it will lead you towards something that will give you guidance on how to create something new in your life. Step 2, create before you're certain it's good. Now, this step is more specific for the more artistic side of creating. Many times we can avoid these forms of creative expression because we don't want to be bad at it. And yeah, sometimes we don't want to be bad at it because we think people will judge us. But I think it's always deeper than that. It's really not about other people. Sometimes we make things about other people and we'll tell ourselves that we don't really want to be bad at something publicly because of how others will react, when in reality, it's how we react. We judge ourselves harshly. We're just projecting and making it other people's fault so we don't have to take accountability. As long as we accept that we're going to be bad at something in the beginning, why does it matter what anyone might possibly say or think? Truly, when I first started writing and podcasting, I knew I was going to be bad at it. And I wasn't even bad at it. I just wasn't great. I was very beginner level, and everything we do in life, we start at a beginner level. So to expect anything different from ourselves is ridiculous, to say the least, but it's also a part of the process. So we have to learn to accept it. That's the bare minimum. Accept that you're going to be a beginner at anything that you're doing for the first time, or anything that you're not consistent with. And over time, you will get better. Now, the funny thing is about getting better, actually, is that you don't necessarily feel better about creating just because you're more skilled at creating. Now, what do I mean by this? When I started off this episode and I mentioned that I'm having that writer's funk, I've noticed that the more that I've built on my skill of writing and just expressing how I feel through words, the more challenging it is at times and the more resistance I feel at times, because I always know that I can do better. Versus when I first started, there was nothing to compare my work to. Now that I've written quite a lot, the bar is a little bit higher. So enjoy that beginner phase. Make the most out of it, because you can only go up from there. And honestly, anything you do when you're starting something new is impressive. Just the starting is impressive. So allow that to be your fuel to start doing something creative in your life. Step 3, don't mistake avoidance for logic. This is a more deeper and I would say spiritual concept when it comes to creation. As I mentioned in step 1, inspiration is everywhere and it doesn't discriminate. It tries to come through anyone and everyone that's open to receiving it. But when we take that for granted for so long, our soul feels it and gets uncomfortable. Now, I'm not even sure how to explain this without making it sound too complicated. Our soul is perfect. It is a spark of God. It is our inner genius, our inner guide. It knows what's best for us, and it only desires what's best for us. But we also have an ego. And when I visualize it in my head, I see my soul as a flame, and then around the flame is the ego. So whenever we're getting inspiration, it's going to have to deal with the ego first. And if our ego is very big, it's going to be really hard for our soul to overpower our ego and push us in the right direction. So if we have always had this dream of becoming an actress, let's say, and we don't know why, we can't shake the feelings. We've thought about it a lot when we were young. And then as we got older and life started happening, we became adults with responsibilities. We don't think about it as much anymore because it just feels unrealistic. And we have all these fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, whatever it may be. That is our ego talking us out of acting on our inspiration. When we do that over and over again, over time, part of us builds resentment. And it's weird because it's not resentment that we fully understand. It can be the resentment of feeling like life is not fair or God is not fair. But ultimately, this resentment of never pursuing our dreams and never going after the things that excited us in life stems from not acting on the things that inspire us and not acting on our creativity, even if we're bad at it. When we receive this inspiration, the inspiration isn't making a mistake. It's not giving you an idea for you to decide whether or not it's in your best interest. If it's something that excites you, then that's a big enough sign that you should act on it. Or later on in life, you're going to look back and have regret. And I know a lot of people like to believe that they won't have regrets in life, because obviously once we've lived something, we can't take it back, so we might as well accept it and move forward. I get that. But at the same time, we know the choices we make in our life, and we know when we settle, and we know when we sleep on our potential. And perhaps in 20 years from now, we're going to accept it. But when we're 80, 90, and we look back on our life, that's when we realize that we've avoided taking risks and we avoided doing things that excited us because we were scared. So why wait until we get to that point when so many older people share that same feeling and that same thought that if they can go back in time, they would tell their younger selves to go after their dreams and to just do what sets their heart on fire. Something that I started doing a year ago, and it actually helped me start this podcast and start acting on my creativity, is that I try to picture myself as a grandmother with grandkids that are adults, and I try to think about that version of myself reflecting back on life and reflecting back on this current moment in my life, in my 20s. And I wonder what that version of myself wants to feel and wants to think about this version of me when she thinks about me. And it's always so simple when I look at it from her perspective. She wants me to be confident, to put myself out there, to not care what people think. She wants this period in my life to be the turning point in my life where I went after my dreams, even if I was scared. And whenever I visualize that version of myself thinking so positively about this current version of myself, it inspires me to keep moving forward. It inspires me to continue to take my creativity and the inspiration that I receive seriously. So I advise you to try that out. Think about a very future version of yourself. Looking back at you now, what would she really be proud to say was true about this current version of you? Because you currently have the potential to make a future version of you very happy and very fulfilled. Step 4, remember you were born to create. I love this step. I love this step so much because honestly, anything that makes me feel more connected to God brings me a lot of joy. I think for most of my life, I've always thought happiness and joy and fulfillment was something that was tied to the physical. It was something that was outside of me, whether it was a successful career, making a lot of money, being able to buy the things that I want whenever I wanted, do the things that I wanted whenever I wanted. And although all of those things are nice and they do bring some sort of happiness and joy and fulfillment, it doesn't last. It's like a black hole. It gives the illusion of fulfillment and happiness, but honestly, moments later, it's as if nothing even happened. At least that's my experience. Creating, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of that. When we create something, it creates a feeling of happiness and fulfillment that doesn't fade. It doesn't diminish no matter how much time has passed, because it almost takes a life of its own and a purpose of its own. I will use my podcast, for example. I can record an episode and feel very inspired as I'm talking about it, and then forget what I really said on the podcast. But that podcast is something that exists beyond me, and people can listen to it at any time, any day, for as long as possible. So the things that I'm creating will constantly be spreading that happiness and that fulfillment on its own and beyond me. And that is something that creates that real happiness and that real fulfillment. When we share things with the world, especially our creations, we are acting like God, because that is what God does. This whole world, the life that we live, it's all a gift from God. We are just extensions of Him. When we create, we get to experience the joy that He feels from the creations that He's brought into this world. It's a beautiful feeling, and I really hope that the creatives out there find this message and feel inspired to commit to their creativity, no matter how small it is, because it will truly enhance the quality of your life and it will make you a happier individual. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. I definitely enjoyed discussing this topic, like I enjoyed discussing every topic, honestly. If you enjoyed, please rate this podcast and share it with a friend or family member if you think they might benefit. I love you all. I hope you have an amazing week. Until next time, bye for now.